So welcome back to the podcast Swish Talk. I'm super excited to have Mark Cook with me today. He's taking the time, and I'm very grateful to have you on. He's coach at King's Hoops AAU in New York City right now, and yeah, I'm ready to pick his brain a little bit. Mark, how's it going?
I'm good. Thank you for having me, Dave. It's really an honor to be here. It's the first time I've actually been invited to be on a podcast. So
Oh, okay. Wow, wow. So you're a newbie, actually. I'm also kind of a newbie. It's like the third episode I'm recording, so you know, we're rookies.
hey, we work together.
We'll make it work. We'll make it work.
Yes,
So
sir.
yeah, we're gonna have some time to talk about all kinds of things about basketball coaching, what we are both passionate about, and that's also one part that I love about because you're in the United States, I'm in Germany, all over the
Mhm.
world, and it just shows basketball brings people together, and that's why we are here in this talk together. So again, happy to have you here, and maybe you want to introduce yourself shortly. How do you get to coaching basketball, and where's like the passion coming from?
It's kind of funny. I actually have to thank my daughter for my coaching career, believe it or not. I was always interested in coaching, even when I was playing, but I was never looked at it as something as like a career until my daughter was in about seventh grade. So she was about 12, 13 at the time, and she was interested in playing basketball. And I would, like father daughter or father son, you take your kid to the park and you're trying to teach her, and she would not listen at all. So, fortunately, the school she was attending, her middle school coach was a friend of mine named Nicole, Coach Sledge. So, shout out to her. We used to play basketball together in school. We were friends. We knew each other. So once I saw her there, she's like, I got it, Mark. So she took her under a wing, and then I would just kind of tell her things to help coach my daughter. And then after a while, she's like, "Why don't you just come be like the volunteer assistant?" So I did that for like the last half a season of my daughter playing in middle school. And then I was just like, I'm gonna get into coaching. So I took a job with Fit for Life, which ironically was brought out by King Hoops and Kids in the Game. So technically, end up working for the same company, which is a weird thing. But I initially started with Fit for Life as like after school sports coach, and I would teach basketball. And then I got started at MS 678 in Brownsville, Brooklyn. I was a middle school coach there, and then I moved on to High School of Global Commerce in Manhattan. That was actually my first high school coaching job. I was there, my first official PE teaching job. Because here in the States, if you really want to coach, you have to like usually have to be a PE teacher to coincide with it. So I had to do that as well. Excuse me. I did that for some time. I left after a while, and then I kind of got my sort of big coaching break when I went to Avenues, the World School. And Avenues is one of the most popular schools in the country. They have other schools around the world, and it's a very prestigious school in New York City. So I was fortunate enough to get that job, and I was the boys JV basketball coach for 5 seasons. Um, my second season, we made it to the finals. Unfortunately, we didn't win, but came in second, and we was the second team in school history to make the finals, which was pretty cool. I was also the head baseball coach there. I was assistant track and soccer. So I did more than just basketball, but basketball was also my primary thing. And then I initially got into AAU when I was coaching at Chelsea Piers Evolution. And that's when I started coaching third, fourth, and fifth graders. And it's so ironic now, those kids, I just had three of those kids graduate and they're going to college now. So that's how long I've been coaching them since they were like in third or fourth grade. So it's been really interesting. So I did that for 3 years. Like I kind of I, if I tell you it's going to be at least 5 minutes, I don't know how long you want me to go.
Well, you've done a lot of different things, right? Like, I mean, and just like to chime in shortly, but like, I think it's really cool that you really taught kids from like, I don't know what age, but until they graduated. Is that how I understood correctly?
Yeah.
So you can really see the evolution, right?
Yes. Yes. It's weird. I just was looking at my phone and had some pictures from the last time we went to AAU Nationals 3 years ago, and all those boys were in eighth grade, going into ninth grade. Now all of them are graduating, going into college, and it's just amazing to see how small they used to be and how they. I used to be taller than them. Now they're taller than me, and
I know it too.
yeah, and how their bodies develop and they look like men, and but I'm just thankful for all of them because they're all just good kids. They're all good guys. They don't get in trouble. They get good grades. They come from good families, and even the ones that have a little bit of struggles, we're there to support them and help them. So that's the best part. I love them as players, but I love them even more as people because I know that I'm help putting out good people to the world. So that's a great thing. But after that, I left Avenues because I kind of got burned out from coaching. To be honest, I was coaching like 6 days a week, and I actually took a job with the Brooklyn Nets for a year doing night sales. So I was selling tickets for like the Brooklyn Nets, excuse me, and New York Islanders games. So that was fun. So I stayed connected to the game, but I didn't really teach or coach officially. And then in the meantime, I was traveling in Trinidad and Tobago because I have family there, and I would do 3-day camps. I did that for 3 years with the National Basketball Federation of Trinidad and Tobago. So I got to work with kids there, and that was a really cool experience to work overseas and to kind of give back to my country and a place that I call home, and that I have family there. And then in 2019, I was also because doing that actually led to my next thing overseas because I was fortunate to work with Pietra Gay, who was a WNBA champion with the Houston Comets. She actually played with like Cheryl Swoops and Tina Thompson. So I was fortunate enough to work with her because she's from Tobago. So shout out to her. But I was fortunate enough to work with her, and we went to Dominica, and I was her assistant coach, but I was the head trainer of the boys and girls Dominican under 18 national basketball teams. So I got to stay there for 3 weeks. I got to live there, be amongst the locals, work with the kids, train, teach. The girls won gold, the boys won bronze. So that was a great experience. Then I came back. I was fortunate enough to work at Columbia Prep for 2 years as the boys JV coach. And then unfortunately, COVID happened. So during COVID, I went back to Trinidad. I stayed in Trinidad for a year. I just stayed with family. And then fortunately, um, just through my connections, again, you know, as the circle goes, with King Hoops, I was fortunate enough to meet to link back with my friend Paul O'Connor. And he's like, whenever you get back to New York, I got a job with you at King Hoops. He's like, I need you on my staff. Because I knew Paul for about 5 years at that time. So he's like, I need you on my staff. So I was like, cool. So he had moved on, but he had referred me to Owen Smith, who was the former director at this time, but he was the director at the time. And he hired me, and then uh, we my first year we went to nationals. We made it to the Elite Eight, and oh sorry, and like I said, those boys that was my water bottle fell. So the boys that was graduating now, they were all on that team, and they kind of set the tone for what was going on for the past 3 years. And then recently, um, in 20 well not recently, but in 2021, I was at King Hoops, and then I got hired at Green Hill School as the PE teacher and sports coach. So I coach all the sports at the school. And in 2022, we won volleyball championship. And in 2023 and 2024, we came second place in basketball. And this is with a student body of 35 kids in the middle school.
Next year first.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I lost a lot. I lost a lot of my really good players this year. So there are a lot of my great players. But I mean, that was great. And then with King Hoops this year, my boys team, we won two fall zero gravity championships. So these are like tournaments in the fall that you do, and these are regional tournaments. So you play against teams from New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, mostly. Sometimes like Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, depending on the event. And we won two of those. and then we played in our city league. So in the wintertime, because a lot of kids play school basketball, middle school or high school, they don't travel. And so we have a city league that we play in. It's called 55 Swish. And I actually had my team play a year up and we made it to second. We finished in second in the regular season and then we finished in second in the finals, which was great. And then we went on the spring to play in Under Armour, which is the big sneaker circuit. So for people not familiar in the States, the sneaker circuits work where like Under Armour, Nike, Puma, Adidas, they all have a basketball circuit where teams go and they go play and they get exposure. And it's a whole thing where they get video and games are recorded. Everything is very organized. And we happen to get on the Under Armour circuit because our program is affiliated with Under Armour. So being on the Under Armour circuit, we made it in the first section. So the way it's done is you play 4 games a section. So maybe it'll be 2 games in 2 days or 3 games one day and then one game the second day. So the first day we had a 3-and-1 schedule. So that's what they call it. So the first session we went 3-0. We won all the games on Saturday, and then we lost the game on Sunday. So we finished 3-1. The second session we had a 2-2, which was better for us. We went 4-0. We actually won the Northeast Championship for the B division, and that's with 30, I think 32 teams. And this is teams from Canada, Montreal, Toronto, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Washington D.C., Virginia. So this is in Under Armour the Northeast and the Southeast regions are the biggest regions.
You won that tournament, so props to you. Uh, just like out of curiosity, like you said, like you have like right in the United States, you have like under 15, under 16, under 17 teams, right? So what you do is like you move on with the teams, right? Like it's not like you have different players every year, or how does it work?
Well, it depends. It depends on the situation. I would say most of the time, teams that I've coached, like for instance, I'll use the first team that I had went to Under Armour. I stopped coaching that team after the first year because Owen wanted me to focus more on the younger kids, and he wanted to take that group, which was fine because that was more of his group. He recruited most of those kids, and I kind of came in at the back end, so I didn't have an issue with that. Those are still my boys too. But this group that I went with now, I'm gonna go with up until they graduate. I've already established that with my director. I'm like, I'm going when they go. So I'm gonna go up with them. So next year we're gonna go up to 14 and then so on up until they graduate high school.
That's great. I mean, I can only relate to my experience. I mean, from what you told me, obviously your experience is much more. I don't know how many years are you into coaching? I did count.
This will be just finishing this will be 14. So this will be 15 coming up.
Okay, okay, wow. So for me, it's like you mentioned that shortly, but for me, it's kind of the same. You have like this team, the new team you get in the beginning, and then you look at the team in the end when they leave. And this is what's really about, right? Like you see the difference, and you can see the impact you had, not only basketball wise, but what you mentioned as well, people wise. Like there's some, I mean, I have I'm an under 16 coach, so I have 14, 15-year olds, and it's also a chance to have a good impact on their lives. I mean, we've also had guys who had like trouble at home, right, with their families and all that, and you can be someone who's there for them and help them in other situations other than basketball. Would you agree with that, or like do you have maybe some stories that you might share?
Yeah, definitely. Like for instance, just this past weekend, just getting to know. I mean, I already know my team, but it's one thing when you spend an hour and a half with them in practice, or you spend a couple hours with them in games. You really get to know your teams. Like for instance, when we had to go to Philadelphia, and we all went out to eat, and like one of my players, Basil, I call him King Eats because all he does is eat. He's like the littlest guy on the team. He has the biggest appetite, and, and he's like my assistant coach. I know, I'm like, your job is to relay what I say, and he does very well with that. and the team responds to him well, and he has his own role. And then like everybody, that's what I enjoy about it. I enjoy that I get to learn my kids. Like Caden, he's quiet. He's thoughtful. He's very intelligent, and like I can have in depth conversations with him. Even though he's like 13, I can even for his age, I can see that he's mature. Like I just have different. I can have different conversations, different feelings with my guys, and that's the best part. I know I could say certain things or way to one kid and be like, "Hey, you shouldn't do that," and he's like, "All right, coach," But then I know I can't yell at this kid, for instance, because I know it might hurt his feelings, and I just pull him to the side. Hey, next time, all right, coach. And that's what I like, just learning my guys, learning who they are. That's the fun part because once I do that, then I can go, okay, now I know how to push your buttons to make you a better player.
I can also hear in your voice and how you told me that this is where you are really passionate about. I love to also talk about this stuff because obviously there's X's and O's and there's like strategy and all that, but I think this is what it's really about when it comes to coaching is like the relationships that you form with the players. And with this type of player, as you mentioned, there's like quiet guys, there's like guys who are a little bit louder, there's guys who tell you when they don't like something. There's also guys who are really good and know that they're good and don't think they have to listen. Like you have to talk to everyone differently, right? So how did you develop that, or like how did you learn?
It was a lot of trial and error, Dave. I got to be honest. It is a lot of trial and error, but I've learned through that trial and error that it usually falls under two umbrellas in the ways you can talk to a guy. And I'll give you an example. It's either comfort or challenge, right? So if, like you said, there's a guy that thinks he's cocky and he's the best thing since sliced bread. I've had guys like that. Those guys, I'll put them in the challenge bucket. Okay, I'm gonna have things to challenge this guy. I'm gonna purposely show him that he needs to fail. I'm gonna make things harder for him so he sees that he's not the best. And that's not to be mean or to break the kid's spirit. And that's not what I'm saying. It's more of getting him to humble himself to go, you know what, I gotta work harder. Okay, I'm not the best. Okay, I may be the best in my neighborhood. I may be the best, in my area, but there's some kid out there who's better than me. And he's on the other side of town, or he's in another state, or in another part of the country. So that what I would put into the challenge bucket. But then there's the other kid who I know he has it or she has it, but I just have to comfort them. I just have to boost them up. I just have to give them confidence. Yo, you good, you got it. And you kind of got those kids. You got to kind of be willing to let them make mistakes, and you see that it's okay. Like so, I put it under those two umbrellas. Now, how you attack it is more about the relationship you have with the player, but it usually falls within that bucket. Those two buckets. It's going to be either I'm going to try to challenge him because it doesn't have to be a direct challenge. You could do it indirectly. You could do it by asking another player to challenge him. Hey, yo, make practice hard for him today. I do that. I do that a lot. Sometimes I'll tell a player, listen, I'm gonna look. He's gonna make practice hard for you
I'm
today.
gonna write that down.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah, yeah. Listen, sometimes you got to do that. I've learned watching from the Dream Team documentary with Chuck Daly. He said sometimes you got to make your kids fail. You got to make your team fail. You got to make your guys fail because when they get too good, it's just natural. It's just our natural inclination to get arrogant if we're winning games or if we're playing well. So you got to knock them down a little bit. Say, hey, look, it's not always going to go that way. So you can use that. That's like I said, it could be an indirect challenge, it could be a direct challenge, but it still falls within that realm. Then it can be indirect comfort. Hey, yo, guys, come here, listen. Such and such is not having a good game. He had a couple bad games. Yo, let's prop him up. You know what I mean? If he makes a mistake, let's not jump on him. And then that's another way of indirect comfort. You know, and what I like to do is just try to build the team. That's to me, like you said earlier, X's and O's is fine. X's and O's is great. But if you don't have a culture, the X's and O's is not going to matter. It's really not. That's the one thing I tell any coach. If you don't build a good culture of kids and coaches that you work with, it's not going to work. It's not going to succeed because you could draw up. a 1-3-1 defense, or we're gonna run a 5 out motion. But if the kid's not listening, what's the point? If they don't believe you, what's the point? If they don't like you, what's the point?
I'm, taking all in. I think it's super interesting, and it's easy to categorize it that way. If you say like comfort and challenge, it's like obviously in reality it's so much harder because everyone is different and they're all human beings. And I mean, you were mentioning you also coach soccer, you also coach like volleyball.
Hmm.
Those are like different sports, but it's always kind of the same thing. If you know about the sport, you can like coach a team, because it's all about relationships and how do you handle these people.
Like the great Coach K said, and I always remember this. He said, every coach must be caring and must be competent. Must be. He said you got to be those two things. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm not the biggest Duke fan, but that's something from Coach K that I always took and I admired that, and I'm glad that I heard him say it. So it's something that's true because if your guys or your girls that you're coaching don't believe that you know what you're doing as a coach, but more importantly, if they don't believe that you care about them, it's a lost cause. You know, they have to know you care about them. And that's the one thing I tell a lot of coaches when they ask me anything about coaching. I'm like, I know you know basketball. You know, especially if it's somebody I know, I'm like, I know you know basketball. That's not what I'm worried about. Build the culture, get the team right, make sure they like each other, make sure they're gonna play hard. Make sure if one falls down, all of them are running to pick each other up. Or if somebody make a mistake, they're patting them on the back. Come on, let's get back. Or if they score, they happy for their other teammate. Like that, those are the signs that I look for to know if my team is good. And that's why I'm proud of my team this year because I saw a lot of that. Guys fall down, everybody's running. Somebody make a mistake, they patting each other on the back. Come on, we get it back. Don't worry. You know, somebody scores, they happy for the person that scored. So that's what you want to see because that's when you know win or lose, they're gonna be friends and remember this the rest of their lives. That's the most important thing.
That's awesome. It's like, thank you for the screen. Thank you for that pass. Like, these are the little things. And it's like, yeah, it's so much more fun. And then you win or you lose together, but you do it together. And I think this is like the most important,
Yep.
right? And it's really interesting because like I used to be like an assistant coach the last years. And this year is the first year, like I'm taking over as a head coach. So we had like 4 practices together. And it's like all new. And like I used to be someone who is like really, talking to players a lot, really like relatable, like really a friend also. But now it's hard to, you don't want to be, um, I don't know how to approach it really because I still want to be that person, but I also want them to listen to me, respect me, and not just like, he's not just our friend, but he's like also a mentor and a coach. Did you experience that?
Yes, I kind of experience it a little bit with my boys because you can't help but grow and learn them as people and get into a genuine friendship and you care about them. You learn to love them as people. So it's hard not to feel that way. And you shouldn't feel bad at all for that. But I would say that I wouldn't say don't lose that. I wouldn't say like don't get rid of that. That's something you want to keep. You want to keep that because you'll be able to talk, but you do have to set the tone that, hey, guys, now we got to shut that off. So, like for instance, like the guys will be goofing off, and it's like, "Hey, lock in." Once I say that, they know what that means. All right, coach is not playing no more. He's not jokey. He's not buddy buddy. Like I blow the whistle, lock in, or come up with your own saying or something that you can come up with. Hey guys, when I say this, that means business. Or give them a sign. I do this. Anything you come up with, that means Coach Dave is serious right now and you just let them know. All right, let's. It's sort of like the army. It's like you know, you address me at certain points, or I'll let you know. Okay, you're at ease. Now we're at ease. We can talk as friends. But at this point, I'm in charge. I'm the leader. You guys have to follow because as a coach, as much as I'm about loving them, you still have to set boundaries. You still have to have rules, especially when you coach boys.
Right.
You have to have boundaries. You have to have rules. Like and 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 don't let any of them fool you. They crave it. They like it because they know that you care. When you give them boundaries and rules, they like, hey, coach actually cares about me. So they might fight it because I have one of my players. I love him to death, and I'll get on him, and he'll look like he's mad, but then I'll look at him, he'll smile at me, and I'm like, I know he, because he knows that's what he needs because he's not used to coaches doing that because he's so talented. They just like, oh no, we leave him alone. I'm like, no, he's one of those kids that's in the challenge
Yeah.
bucket. So I know I can challenge him, but I know it's not a problem. Me and him sat on the plane on the way home, and we were great. So I know that's what he needs, and that's how we build in our relationship. I don't have that same relationship with other players. Other players, I just say, hey, don't do that. Okay, coach. And that's it. So it's just you can trust me. You want to be that coach that the kids still want to come to and talk to and relate to, but you have to let them know, like, okay, there's a time and place for that. But when it's time that you want to do stuff in practice, or it's time that you're doing stuff in the game, anything that you want to work on, okay, like let's lock in, guys. Let's focus. Now it's about business, and then you just get them going like that.
There's no right or wrong, right? Like there's like coaches also that are really strict, really tough, really distant, and also can work. Um,
Mhm.
that's what I feel like is interesting, and that's what I feel like is great as well because you can be yourself. You don't have to like be someone else or like pretend to be someone else. You can be yourself, and you can be a successful coach.
Yes, I know how you felt when I first started coaching. For instance, I was already coaching a couple years, and I remember when I started to coach at Avenues, I was like, all right, I have to be like this. I want to be like this coach. I want to be like that coach. And then after my like halfway through my first year, Coach Mixel, he was the varsity coach, and he was great. He gave me a lot of helpful tips. He was a very good mentor. He was like, dude, he's like, just be yourself. He's like, stop trying to be like me. Stop trying to be like this coach. He's like, just be you. He's like, the kids like you. They know you know basketball. He's like, we wouldn't have hired you if you didn't know basketball. He's like, just be you. So I'm like, all right. And then once I did that, I just realized that hey, the kids like me for being me. And I just kind of just made my own coaching style just through being me. So I would just say, Dave, just be you, man. Don't change. The only thing I would say is just if you need to be more firm or set boundaries so the guys can be more focused, that's totally fine. But other than that, don't change, man. Don't change because they'll appreciate it. They won't run that you're giving them boundaries. They won't run. They'll fight it at first, but after a while they'll appreciate you for it. Trust me.
Thank you so much, man, for all the advice. I mean, it's great. It doesn't feel like we're in a podcast. It's just like, we have a regular talk. Yeah,
Nah, that's
that's
great. I
awesome.
love
That's
it.
awesome. Yeah, like just like one of the last questions because like time is running like crazy. I mean, you're into coach for like 14 years. If there would be like three things that you can tell your younger self now, 14 years ago, which three things would you pick?
Uh, don't overwork yourself because that's one thing I did. Like take more breaks. I did that early in my career. I overworked myself a lot. That's why I burned out. Like after a few years. So don't overwork yourself. Um, Two would be enjoy the games, not the wins. Because I used to, as when I first coached, I was about the wins. I lose, I'm like and enjoy the games. Like even if you lose, like if a kid on your team did something really cool, they did something they didn't do before, like be proud of that. Just as much as if you won the game. Like I've learned that. So I would say, be proud of games and not wins or losses. And the third thing would probably be nicer to the refs. Because I used to be terrible with the refs at first. I really did when I first started. I used to be terrible with the refs, but now I have a really good reputation with a lot of refs because I understand that they just people. Before I just look at them as just refs, but
Right.
now I'm like, no, they people. They're
Yeah.
gonna make mistakes, and I have the simple thing: if they can explain their call, I leave it alone. If you ain't like, coach, look, he got hit up top, or he tricked them, or whatever the call is, or he touched it last out of bounds. I can't argue it. We don't have replay, so I can't argue. But if you just making calls or you not making calls and then you're not explaining yourself, then I get upset. Even then, it's funny. Most people like that know me. I'm like, I have this joke. I'm like, how many texts you think I got in my career? They're like 15, 20. I'm like, no, I probably like four. And this is like over 14 years of coaching. I only like 14.
You know when to stop. You know when to stop.
Right. Exactly. So I know my limits. I was like, there's the line. I'm gonna stop right there.
Yeah, yeah,
So I like it's just those will probably be the three things I say.
yeah, yeah. I appreciate all the refs because I always think I would never want to be a ref because like most of
Okay.
the time both sides are complaining all the time and the players start complaining. It's gotta be annoying.
I know a lot of refs. I know a few refs, and no, none of them
No.
enjoy it. You
No.
know, they just do it for the money, and they like the game, and they like the money. That's really why they do
Right, right,
it.
right. We stick with coaching.
Yeah, yeah, we stick with coaching.
Before we get to the game part, there's one little segment which is called Fun Facts About Basketball that you might know but probably will not. Presented by me. So I'm gonna read a fact to you, and maybe you know it. So the fact is, do you know Coach Bob Knight?
Yes, I'm not.
Oh, you know him. Okay, I didn't know him. So in the 1980s, Indiana University coach Bob Knight once threw a chair across the court during a game to
There's a
protest.
very famous clip here in the United States. He used to throw chairs religiously. I actually watched Bobby Knight coach a lot. He used to do that quite often.
Oh, there
Throw
you go.
chairs, get thrown out of games. He was a character.
So you know it. So you're the first one who knows the fun fact. The other two they didn't know it before.
Oh,
So
really? Hey.
congrats to you. Let's switch to the small game part. So the game is very simple. It's you know you cannot do it right or wrong. The game is called Hoop Head Scratchers.
Okay.
I'm gonna give you a few scenarios, and there's no right or wrong scenario, but I would be interested in what you would do in this scenario. All right?
Okay.
Okay. So the first scenario is your team is up two. You have 15 seconds left, and the opponent has the possession, and they're known for good shooting. Do you either defend the perimeter or do you defend the paint?
I definitely would defend the perimeter. I would try to like if say for instance if the guy's holding the ball like just holding it coming down, I'll wait till they make a move. But if not, as soon as the guy goes, I'm gonna try to foul even before they shoot it. I'm gonna try to foul before the three. But I would definitely defend the perimeter, not the paint.
You would foul up two?
Yep. I wouldn't not at 15. I would try to get it under 10 and then do it.
Okay, so you would foul and want to send them to the free throw line and bet on it that they miss one.
Yeah. Because the key you said is a good shooting team. If it wasn't a good shooting team, I probably would play it out.
You don't want to lose too much. You've experienced some losses at the buzzer in this case.
Yes, yes, I have. And it's kind of interesting. I was in Trinidad. I wasn't coaching, but it was a scenario similar to this, right? And the team took an early shot, an early three. They made it because the team didn't foul, right? And then they came down with like 6 seconds and they missed their shot and lost the game. So that kind of reinforced my thinking on that. So like me, myself, and a couple of the guys that we were debating that scenario, and he's like, "No, you should let him shoot." And then after that happened, I said, "See, you should have fouled." He was like, "Yep, you were right. You were right." So that's like I haven't coached in that scenario, but I've seen it. And actually, I did. I was down two when we won the game like that, but that's a different story.
I guess that's why it's so hard because there's no right or wrong, right? Like it always depends on your experiences. Like whatever you experience the most, you say, okay, don't let him shoot, just foul him, please.
Right. Right. But then sometimes it can backfire too, because if you foul and then he gets it up, that's three shots anyway. So it's like it like you said, there's no right or wrong. It's just like you said, it's more of your preference.
Okay, okay, very interesting. So second scenario. Tied game this time. 30 seconds left. So we have a 24-second shot clock. 30 seconds left. Do you take a quick shot for a 2-for-1?
Honestly, I would prefer to get that one shot because 2 for 1 in that situation, you might not, it's not guaranteed. And then usually the first shot in a 2 for 1 is not usually a good shot. So I would prefer the team to come down, especially if it's a tie game, because even if we get it down to let's say 12 seconds and get a shot up, that might be a rebound we get back. That might be a foul call on the other team for us. Or even if they get the rebound, they're going to usually call a timeout and then we can reset anyway and play defense. So I think it's better to just play down for that one shot. Now, if it was halftime, I would play 2 for 1 because then it really doesn't matter. But end of the game, tie game, no. I'm taking the best shot possible.
I heard that the 2 for 1 is statistically the better option, but I think at the end of games you don't want to gamble too much, right? Like I think it's best shot that counts. Just like let the other team make a bucket.
Yeah, because especially say for instance, okay, you come down, right, and you take the shot, it's 30 seconds, you take the shot with 24 seconds, right? And they get the rebound with 22 seconds. Now you essentially gave them the last possession of the game. You know, that's what I'm saying. The 2 for 1 is not guaranteed.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like if you the other team, why would I give you another chance to score? Especially if the shot clock is done. You get what I'm saying? Because it's only that 6 second window. If I hold the ball for 7 seconds, the shot clock's irrelevant now. If we get the rebound, we got the last shot of the game. So I would definitely like to take the last shot. I'm surprised that the 2 for 1 was more statistically better. That's kind of shocking.
I don't have any sources right now, so don't pin me down on that. But I heard it somewhere. But it was an NBA stat.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes more sense in NBA. Where I coach, no, we try to get the best shot possible.
Okay, another scenario. Are you ready for one more?
Sure.
Um, so it's the middle of the season, and your star player is in a slump for the last 5 games, and your bench player, same position, he played great in limited minutes. Do you either say, I'm gonna make a change, or do you say, I'm continuing with my star player?
Okay, it depends where we are. So, like, if we're in the middle of the pack or we're behind, I'm going to start the bench guy just because I feel like the team will need a spark to get going. But if we're like in first place or second place, I'll probably give that star player another game. But before that game, I'm going to be like, look, if you don't get it going, this is where the challenge bucket comes in. You don't get it going, the guy on the bench, he's going to take your spot pretty much. And usually that gets a guy going. So that's why I would just to answer the question, I would give the bench guy the chance, but I would let that star player know like why he's not starting anymore, or he needs to fix it to get his spot back. But in an ideal world, I probably would just start both of them if I could, But if not, if I had to, I would start the bench guy just because I want to reward the guy that's playing well, and I want that guy, the star player, to kind of not have that pressure for a bit. Like, yo, you don't need the pressure for this game. Just ease into it, and we'll get back into it. So I would move the bench guy up. Reward the guy that's playing well.
So the next one is you have your spot for the playoffs secure, and the seeding stays the same. You have one more game, and this game is against a strong rival, which you might meet in the playoffs. So what do you do? Do you say, I play my strongest team for like morale or rhythm or whatever? Or do you say, okay, I'm gonna, play a weaker team for rest and playtime for some squad players who are not playing as much? What would you do?
I would probably start like the first half like normally and have my normal guys play the first half, and then the second half kind of rotate more my bench guys. Because if I already know our seating, and even if it's a rival, I mean, depends on the rival too. Because if it's a real rivalry game, I'm gonna go all out. I can't lie.
Yeah,
But if
you
it's
want to win
like,
this game.
yeah, but if it's like, if you saying this, nah, I'm going all out. Forget it. I'm just starting. I'm going.
Let's go.
Yeah,
Let's go.
I'm going all out, brother. I'm going all out. I ain't gonna lie because if I just
It's
thought
all
about
for
it,
the moment.
yeah, I just thought about it. If it's a rival, I don't want to lose to them. You know what I mean? I might, I'll be more open to minutes. I'll say that. Like I'll give my bench guys some more minutes. But I'm definitely gonna try to win the game.
I think I would do the same thing. But you could also look from another standpoint that, or you don't want to give away too much, right? Like that, like most of the time, the team that is losing is like, okay, we can adjust there or here and there.
For our age groups, that's not really a big deal because like I don't know about where you are, but in the states, everybody pretty much plays the same 4 or 5 offenses or defense. Like you're gonna get motion, you're gonna get pick and roll, you're gonna get pass and cut. Like it's always a variations of something that you've seen before. Defenses, you're gonna be mostly man to man. You'll see some 2-3, 3-2, maybe some 1-3-1. They'll have man to man press, like stuff you've seen. So the X's and O's stuff is as weird as it sounds. Is like it's not even the meat and potatoes of it, really. It's the motivating, it's the recruiting, it's getting the talent to go from this point to that point. That's what I'm starting to learn is really the key stuff because you can teach X's and O's. Us as coaches, we enjoy the X's and O's because we like to teach it. That's great. But the kids, trust me, after the season, right? When you go into the next season, after you have a break with your kids, like the first practice, go look, run the play we ran last year and see how many remember it. They're gonna barely remember the play. I'm telling you. That's what I'm telling you. And I laugh when coaches pounce on X's and O's because I'm like, yes, they're important, but I'm like, that's not what the kids are going to remember. You know what they're gonna remember? How hard they played, who their friends were, what happened in practice, what happened in games, what you said to them as a coach, what you did in games as a coach, what you did with them in games and practices as a coach. That's what they're gonna remember.
Beating the rival in the last game.
Yeah, did we win or lose the last? Yeah, ain't gonna remember them plays. So that's why I was laughing at coach. Oh, plays, play. I'm like, okay, whatever, dude. We all run the same four plays.
Stop that.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, so if it was like American football, that's different because it's a lot more plays and strategy. But basketball is pretty simple.
So we got one more. We got one more actually. Last one. I don't know if it's relevant for you because you have always had the same team basically from the age group. But let's say you have a very very talented rookie, like a newcomer, and you have like he has a great potential, but he's inconsistent, and you also have like someone who is more or less consistent, but he's not like much of a game changer. So you never know what you get from the rookie, but you kind of know what you get from the other person, but you don't know. Who would you start?
Ooh, probably definitely the more consistent player. And here's why. When you're in a heat of a game, the most consistent kids are the ones that you're gonna trust. Those are kids that I call solid kids. So if you hear me call a kid solid, it's a compliment. It's like those are kids I know I can trust, and those are kids you want because you know they're gonna come to practice. You know they're gonna listen. As much as I love a kid who has talent, if they're not consistent, if they're not coachable, I don't really mesh with those kids well, to be honest. But if they are on my team, they kind of actually fit better being off the bench because you can kind of use them as that spark plug, that X factor, that wild card, and that's where they kind of fit. And you need the consistent kid to be more of a starter. So I would start more of the consistent kid first, no matter how talented that other kid is. Now, if that rookie becomes more consistent in his work ethic and showing up, yeah, eventually he's going to take that consistent kid spot. That's just undeniable. But if it stays the same, I'm gonna keep the consistent kid because I know, like I said, comes to practice, is reliable in games, it's coachable, things that I know is just gonna make my job easier, make the team flow easier.
Yeah, I think consistency is so important, right? Like, doesn't matter how talented you are, if you are consistent, you can help the team.
I tell my kids the hardest thing you can do in basketball, the hardest thing you can do in life is be consistent. You ask my kids, they'll tell you, be consistent. I preach it into their head. You got to be consistent because you could be great on Saturday and then play like crap on Sunday. Like you got to be able to be consistent. So yeah, that's the same thing for us coaches. We got to be consistent in how we coach and our word, how we carry ourselves. We got to do the same thing.
Is there a better final word? I think that's the great final word for it. So yeah, perfect. Thank you so much, Mark. I mean, it's been amazing. The time was flying. It was super interesting. Definitely love to hear from you. And if other people, are interested or like the listeners are interested to learn more about you or whatever, what would be the best way to get in touch with you?
You can find me on Instagram. I just want to make sure you give the right one. Coach CCOACH_C718. You can find me there. If you want to email me, you can email me at coachcook72@gmail.com.
Perfect. Like I said, it's been a pleasure, Mark. Great to have you on.
Thank you, Dave. I
I hope
appreciate
you
it.
have a great time as well.
Nah, it was awesome. Like you said, I didn't feel like this was an interview. I just felt like we just were two coaches talking about basketball.
That's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that's how it's supposed to be exactly. So I appreciate it. And Thank you. And want to have me back anytime, I'll be happy to. So I appreciate this.
We'll get you back on.
All right, cool. But anytime, Dave, anytime. I appreciate you. Thank you.